Everyone, welcome to Bible Bites. Good to have your company once again. Our question for today is it biblical to defend ourselves against physical assault? Well, naturally we ask this question because the world is fast becoming a very violent place. Now, traditionally we have seen violence in North Africa, in the Middle East, many third world countries which are struggling against oppression and violence, but America now proves that violence can consume really any country throughout the world. So, does the Bible offer any guidance on defending ourselves against assault? Well, it's a complicated issue and it's highly emotive for people, and therefore there are many opinions that are put forward. And further complicating the answer, of course, is that we have the law of the Bible and then we have the law of the country in which we live in. But if you turn to the Bible, and Exodus 22 in particular, it gives some clues about God's attitude towards self-defense. For instance, chapter 22, verses 2 and 3 says this: "If the thief is found breaking in and he is struck so that he dies, there shall be no guilt for his bloodshed. If the sun has risen on him, there shall be guilt for his bloodshed." So from this passage, we see two basic principles that are taught. One, the right to peacefully own private property, and two, the right to defend that property. You see, the full exercise of the right to self-defense, though, depended upon the situation, as the verse just testified. Now, let me say from the outset that nobody should be quick to use any type of force against another human being. But, taking the Exodus passage, what it permits is self-defense in situations where a homeowner is woken by an intruder and finds himself in a state of confusion, panic and fear because it is in the middle of the night. So, if the intruder is killed in the act of self-defense, the homeowner is found not guilty of his murder. However, if the intruder is confronted during the day and the homeowner is probably more able to determine the threat and act reasonably, or perhaps even escape from violent confrontation, it's expected then that bloodshed should not take place. Therefore, we could say a godly person was expected to try to flee or restrain the assailant rather than immediately resort to killing him. Now, people often raise the statement that Jesus made in simply turning the other cheek, but that statement wasn't referring to physical assault. It was referring to personal slights and offence. But it's good to keep in mind, however, that some situations that may call for self-defence should never end in retaliation or vengeance. In short, the Bible never forbids self-defense, and believers are allowed to defend themselves and their families. But the fact that we are permitted to defend ourselves does not necessarily mean that we should do so in every situation. Otherwise, we might find ourselves in danger of crossing over into vengeance, which the Lord will not reward. Now, there are some situations which are obviously forced upon us suddenly, and we might not have the time to consider our options analytically. But like everything in the Christian faith, we have to ensure that our heart is acting in accordance with God's will, and often that will mean avoiding situations and places that we might know may lead to a confrontation. So, to sum it up, is it biblical to defend ourselves against physical assault? Yes, but please be aware and please ensure that you are exercising wisdom, not only according to the law of God, but also the law of the country in which you live.